Um, Greetings, everyone. Thanks for joining us. I have been waiting for this event for a long time. So it's been like, we started organizing it a month ago or so, and then finally it's coming together. I look very much forward to listening to Dr. Arsen Gasparyan, who's been a very active member of the environmental community in Armenia from a science perspective, as well as a committed, passionate person about the environment. Dr. Gasparyan has earned his doctoral degree in the field of lichenology at the Freie Universitat in Berlin. He has studied lichen diversity in Armenia since 2011. As a result of his research, 4 lichen species new to science have been discovered and described. Moreover, his studies have revealed more than 200 new lichen species in Armenia. So quite a bit of an accomplishment for one dissertation. Recently, he established the Lichen Research and Conservation Group at the Takhtajyan Institute of Botany at the National Academy of Science of the Republic of Armenia. Arsen also is an expert in the field of nature conservation and protected areas. From 2016 to 21, he worked at WWF Armenia as a conservation officer. So we're delighted to have you with us, Arsen, and look forward to the talk. Thank you.
Thank you very much. First of all, thank you for the invitation. I will share the screen. Okay, just a second. Do you see it?
Yes, we do.
Okay. Thank you very much, Alan. Thank you for the introduction. So today we will talk about lichens and fungi. We will try to explore the world of lichens and fungi together. I will skip this slide because Alan has already introduced my person and what I'm doing here. So most probably from your school textbooks, you know that lichens are a symbiotic association of fungus and algae or cyanobacteria. In natural environment, algae and cyanobacteria, they don't need to create this association, so they can live separately and survive in natural environment. But we can't say the same about the fungus, and a fungus needs algae or cyanobacteria. But it's not so true, because the fungus provides some protection for algae from ultraviolet. It provides attachment to the substrate. It creates the body of lichens. So it's win-win situation, of course. I think so. But of course, there are different opinions, and some scientists think that lichens are fungi that discovered agriculture. What does it mean? That fungus capture and exploit algae or cyanobacteria. As you can see on the screen, this is a slice of lichen under microscope. On the upper side, you see let's say, the skin of a lichen, upper cortex, it's fungus. And then you see this green stuff, it's algae. And then we have again fungus, the medulla part of lichen, and this lower cortex and rhizomes, which serve as attachment to the substrate. So here you can see that algae also need a fungi. Of course, okay, let's start with the first fact. About 150 years, we thought that lichen is association of one fungus and algae or cyanobacteria. And in 2016, my colleagues published the research in Science magazine. They found the third partner, which is basidiomycete yeast. It is embedded in the cortex, the skin of lichen. So you can see on the image, this is a picture of lichen bryoria under the microscope. And you can see these green dots, and these green dots are basidiomycete yeast. And most probably they provide some protection to lichen. by releasing some secondary metabolites to the environment and protecting from bacteria. But my colleagues found this basidiomycete yeast in more than 50 genera of lichens. So it was like a revolution in our field. So our knowledge that it's just fungus and algae, now it can be one or two fungi, and it's really a fact which I think you didn't know before. Lichens, it's also interesting fact, and not all of you maybe know that lichens cover from 6 to 8% of Earth's surface. And so they're really important for our planet. I will talk about it, but they remain underrated. Another interesting fact about lichens that they can survive in the space. So in 2005, it was the experiment. They were exposed in the space, 2 species of lichens. One of them you see on your screen. This is Xanthoria elegans. And both of them survived in the harsh conditions of space. And this showed that they can survive, I guess, in the Mars conditions as well. Lichens can almost grow anywhere. So on the picture, for instance, on the picture you see old Soviet car. I photographed this car in area of Hankavan. It's very humid location and very beneficial for lichen growth. And on this small part, metallic part of the car, you can see at least 5-6 species of lichens. Lichens can be found on human bones, on plastic bottles, practically everywhere. And you can ask, why do we need lichens? What are their role in natural ecosystems? They are really important. Why? Because they are first organisms which are colonizing the new habitats. Lichen grow on the rock surface, and they produce secondary metabolites, which over the time period change rocks and destroy the rock and create the soil. So they participate in soil formation. And after this, a new other vegetation comes and colonize the habitat. So one of the important roles of lichens is soil formation. The second one is lichens capture the atmospheric nitrogen and then convert to nitrates. And then when the rain comes, they are leached and they enrich the nearby soil with nitrates, so provide a source of food for soil-based vegetation. Another important role of lichen as source of food for other organisms, such as maybe you heard about reindeer in Siberia, which eat lichens during the autumn, winter time, and it's the only source of food for them during this period. But not only, my colleague from WWF, Alexander Malkhasyan, observed bezoar goats in Armenia eat lichens during the winter time in Khosrow Forest State Reserve. So they are also important source of food. Also, lichens are used by birds for construction of their nests. It's also an other type of use of lichens in nature. So you can see on the screen. Another interesting fact, which probably you didn't hear, not a fact, but methodology, is lichenometry. It is cheap and adoptable methodology using lichen measurement to estimate the age of the substrate, the age of, for example, stone. For instance, on the screen you see a Lichen Rhizocarpum geographicum. Rhizocarpum geographicum, which grows about 0.5 to 0.8 millimeter per year. So lichens grow very slowly, and they grow radially. So you can measure lichen during several years, and then understand the growth rate and calculate the age of the substrate. This most probably you heard about that lichens are good bioindicators of air pollution and environment. And specifically of sulfur dioxide. If you have any type of pollution, some species will disappear very quickly within a few years, and some other species will occur, which are resistant to such a pollution. So by studying a diversity of lichens, we can talk about environmental pollution in specific area. If, for instance, if you go to, I don't know, Noemberan forests and check the trees, you will find a lot of lichens there. But if you will walk on the Bahraman Avenue, most probably you will not find any lichen, or one or two which are resistant to air pollution and to such an urban environment. So lichens and lichen diversity can serve as a bioindicator. For instance, on the screen you see Lobaria pulmonaria. This is a new species for Armenia. We found it about 1 or 1.5 years ago in Dilijan National Park. It is a very sensitive species to air pollution. And in Europe, it is declining very quickly because of air pollution. It is one of the good indicators of environmental situation. Lichens can also be used for biomonitoring of forests, health of forests, because they are good indicators of old growth forests and a good situation of environment. Lichens also have many traditional human uses. We will talk about some of them. So you can see on your screen, Toothpaste. I took the picture from Amazon. It's with Arctic lichens, so they are using for toothpaste. On the left side, you see the deodorant with oak moss. It's the common name of lichen Everne brunastri, which is also distributed in Armenia. It is also used in deodorants. Another lichen, Xanthoria parietina, has the parietin, this secondary metabolite, which protect lichens from UV rays, and it is used in production of sunscreen. And of course, dyes, and even in Armenia, dyes were used in the preparation of these old manuscripts, which now you can see in Matenadaran, because they used dyes for this picture for coloring. Alan has already told you about our research that we found more than 200 species of lichens new for the country, 4 new species for science, and we continue our job. I would like to talk about our group. Our research group was recently established at the Institute of Botany with support of Science Committee. It's first effort to let's say, organize and arrange lichen research in Armenia. But I started my research in 2011 with support of foreign specialist colleagues. But it is first time when we tried to work on this and to create a group of people, and my colleagues, young scientists, joined me to intensify the lichen research and conservation efforts. For instance, you can see the famous Zorats Karer megalithic monument. Together with my colleagues from different countries in 2015, we organized a lichen excursion to Armenia and studied different sites, and among them this one. And I guess it can be interesting for you that on those stones, about more than 53 species, including 3 new records, the species which grows only here, known from here, were found. So it's also interesting site for further lichenometry can be implemented and applied here. Now I have a question to you. This is unique case, but really interesting. I would like to ask you, what do you think, what purpose it is used for, this bottle with lichens? So if you have any option, you can share with me. If no, I can share with you. What do you think?
Sarıçı bet. Sarıçı.
Tea. Chai.
Chai. For tea?
Yeah.
No. Other options?
Tanya says pickle.
Pickle?
Yeah.
Sorry, what does it mean?
Turşidan, Lily.
Turşida. Okay. No. Okay. It is used by Yazidis in Armenia, one family. They use lichens in their magic rituals and rituals and so on. So I don't know exactly how do they do that and for which purpose it exactly, but they use for magic rituals. And together with my colleague from Institute of this Ethnology and Archaeology, I don't remember how it's called, Roman Hovsepian, he's ethnobotanist. So we are going to study also ethno-lichenology, how people used lichens in Armenia, what for dyes, for maybe such a magic rituals and so on. So I don't have exact information how did they use it, but they used for these magic rituals.
Garapet also was saying aphrodisiac. So,
okay, so let's move to fungi. Most of people think that fungi are plants, but fungi are not plants. They're in between animals and plants. So they're completely separate. They have own kingdom of fungi. On the right side, you see this yellow fungus, Sarcodontia grotzia. We found this fungus in orchard of my friend. So he photographed the fungus and sent me. So we identified that it's new species for Armenia, and even it is listed in IUCN Red List of Threatened Species. So, and only 500 localities throughout Europe are known for this species. So biodiversity is everywhere, so we don't know where we can expect lichens and fungi. This is just as an example. It grows on old apple trees. The first fact about which I would like to talk is that only 120,000 fungi are classified by taxonomists. And according to the different estimations, 3.8 million remain unknown. So there is a lot of fungi.
Can you explain that a little bit, Arsen? How do we know that scale in terms of, how do we come up with that kind of a scale of 3.8 million? Given that we don't know what they are, how do we know the size of it approximately?
It's approximate estimation by the expert level. So maybe some modeling. Honestly, I didn't go deep how they are going to how they are estimating these numbers. But as far as I know, according to different models, they estimate the approximate number of species.
Thank you.
And because I was not involved in such a research, but the data shows that about 3.8 million species remain undescribed. Honestly, it's a bit high number. And just as a remark, include this 120,000, including about 70 to 18,000 species of lichenized fungi, the fungi which create lichens, let's say. Another important fact, which most of you didn't know, that the largest and oldest organism in the world is fungus. It is this Armillaria ostoia fungus, which grows in US, in northern Michigan, if I'm not mistaken. It's about 8,650 years old. And it covers huge territory and weight with this mycelium, the part of the fungi which is underground, about 35,000 tons. And I thought to talk about the mycorrhiza, the symbiotic relations between fungus and plant. But then I found this nice and short video from BBC with some data about the recent research. And I would like to show you. Okay, it was short, brief video about the mycorrhiza and the importance of fungi for forest ecosystems. White. Okay. But so you saw in the video that fungi and mycorrhiza plays important role in forest ecosystems, but they also help us to combat climate change, because some researches showed that forests with specific type of mycorrhiza, ectomycorrhiza, mycorrhizal fungi, they capture and store, so sequestrate about 10 times more carbon than forests without such symbiotic relationships. So it is also important then during the planting of some species of tree, to consider the species which can create ectomycorrhizal relationships with fungi. Of course, there are a lot of different species of fungi, but some of them can change our world, change our life. And some of them are on the screen. On the right side, you see this Aspergillus tubingensis. This species was found in landfill of in the Pakistan. And both these species, they, let's say, eat plastic. So they produce enzymes which degrade this polyester polyurethane. So there are, if I'm not mistaken, more than 50 such species which degrade different types of plastic. So they are our future in combating plastic pollution. Maybe some of you in the field, you saw such rings and thought that it's place of landing of UFO. But it's not so true. It's fairy rings. It's called fairy rings. It's produced by fungi. As I said, fungi grow radially, and at the edge of mycelium, the underground part of fungus, they produce different metabolites, and they also consume the nutrients from the soil, and they dry the grass here. So you, as a result, you can see such rings. And in all ancient times, they thought that it's place where fairies dance and play. And in some other nations, people think that it's connected with devil and so on, but it's fungi. So this is my favorite lovely topic, zombie apocalypse. It's about zombie and fungus. I thought it can be interesting also for you. You can see two species of Ophiocordyceps genus, and on the left side, the species which parasite on ants. So when the spore of fungus enter to ant, it grows there, it makes from the ant zombie, and at the end, an ant dies. On the right side, you see Ophiocordyceps sinensis. This is interesting species. It grows only at the altitude of from 3,000 to 5,000 meters above sea level in Tibet. So, and locals are collecting this fungi because it is well known for its medicinal properties, and it's very expensive. And I would like to ask you how much it costs. What do you think? Any idea?
$500 a gram.
$500 a gram per kilogram. We will have 5,000. Other options? Okay. Sorry. 20,000 USD per kilogram.
Nora gets the prize.
So it's very expensive, but in 2009, when I was visited China, I saw they produce this fungus on artificial substrate instead of course, these natural insects. They produce on artificial substrate, and of course it's cheaper there. But if you like real one, to have a real one, you need to pay about 20,000 US dollars per kilogram. Of course, it's another interesting topic, edible and poisonous mushrooms, fungi. In Armenia, we have more than 300 species of edible mushrooms and 60 species of poisonous mushrooms. But I would like to mention about species which, if you will eat with and consume with alcohol, you will have problems. You will have poison. So they can be considered, let's say, as poisonous. One of them is this Morchella conica, which grows in the springtime and also collected in Armenia. So be careful with fungi. And the last but not least fact about fungi, that we have in the world, we have more than 80 species of bioluminescent fungi, and one of them also occur in Armenia. So it's Armillaria melea. And if you will visit forests during the nighttime and will find this fungus, you will see how they bioluminescent. Actually, that's it. And I would like to ask you, follow our page on Facebook, Lichens and Fungi of Armenia, where we share results of our research, some interesting facts about lichens and fungi. You can write to us by our email or visit our website, lichens.am. It's under preparation. Actually, that's it. If you have
very much
questions.
Yeah, thank you very much, Arsen. Maybe I can just start with one question and then open up the floor to others. In teaching, have you worked with kids on lichens and fungi?
Yes, but I had some seminars in Dilijan, in Viosdor. No, I didn't teach them, but it was like just seminars, yeah.
And what is it that captures their interest, and what is it that attracts them to learn more about this? Did you find them, I mean, were they interested in the topic?
They were interested, and interesting that in Dilijan, I remember that they asked me that their parents clean lichens from trees, from bark of tree, because they think that it's disease. And it was really difficult to persuade them that we need to keep lichens, because when you try to clean lichens from tree, first of all, they don't damage your tree, and your life of your tree is just 20, maximum 25 years, and then you just cut it. And lichens need much more time to damage any substrate. And I explained them that when you try to clean from the tree, you damage the bark and enter the space for really the wood decaying fungi, and those fungi can really damage your tree, and you will have problems later. So mostly they asked such type of questions, the things which they see in their everyday life, and in general, they were interested. Yeah, it depends on which type of things you are talking about. For instance, when I decided to prepare this, when I thought about this presentation, and I decided to put facts which can be interesting and attractive for everyone. It doesn't matter, because I didn't know who will join our seminar.
Right. Thanks. Guys, anyone with questions?
Yeah, I have one question. So Arsen there have been discussions over the past few years of the use of some fungus-based, more specifically, I think it's called mycelium-based materials that could be used as a replacement for some plastics. However, there's one concern for me, that mycelium is growing it takes time for mycelium to grow, which makes it more expensive, and it's difficult to replace plastic based packaging materials, because plastics are faster to produce, more or less. Are there, do you know of any research, or do you know of any processes which can speed up the growth of this mycelium or funguses significantly, or is it not realistic?
It depends on species and depends on I didn't get what do you mean use of mycelium, maybe use of products from mycelium for life. For instance, we know about this Lego, yes, for kids. Yeah, in production of Lego, they use some enzymes from some species of fungi. And so it is widely used in, let's say, industrial production. So it depends on the species. There are some species which are rapidly grow and create the necessary volume of mycelium. So it's possible, and there are of course some researches on this topic that they add some additives to increase the growth rate and so on. So it is possible, yeah, to use.
Anyone else with questions? Yeah, Tanya, yes, please.
Yeah, hello. I'm watching from Concord, Massachusetts. Thank you, wonderful presentation, and I'll watch it again. Question, you said there are some new fungi showing up in Armenia. And I'm wondering if you think that is a desirable thing or not. The reason I'm asking is, here in the States, sometimes there's always this worry about invasive species, like something new coming in and taking over. And some people worry a lot about that. And I don't know if the new fungi that are showing up are just being discovered, or they are helpful or not helpful, or what do you think? Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for the question. The species which we found, it's native species. It's not invasive species. Of course, it's threat for, let's say, apple orchards. We can, from agricultural perspective, of course, we can consider it as a threat. But in the natural environment, the food web is considered. In natural environment, everything is considered and everything work perfectly. So you don't need to intervene there. But as we intervene, we change the environment, and in some cases, of course, fungal diseases and some issues can occur. For instance, we observed different fungal diseases in the forests of Armenia, and of course, it needs additional studies. So it depends. Some species of fungi are important for the food web, and we can't just ignore them. But in case of this species, it was native, so it's not invasive.
Thank you.
But I see your concern, and I think if we know the diversity, and if we know, we should always take care when we import, especially plant seedlings or some other plants to Armenia. And probably you heard about this Pavlovnia issue. You heard about different species of trees, which maybe government think to import to Armenia for planting purposes, and which we should think about this prior, and because together with seedlings, together with plants, we can bring a lot of diseases, and it can become a really big headache for us.
Antoine, you had a question?
Yes, thank you again. I saw your website and I saw the list of lichens. I suppose this is lichens and mushrooms, right?
No, right now we have only lichens in our website, on our website. But because we were mostly concentrated on lichens, but now we start also with fungi, not only mushrooms, but also maybe other species of fungi. The problem is that there is always lack of specialists, and you know, the salaries in Armenia in the field of science are very low. And so it's not so easy to attract young people and to grow new researchers, and it's a huge problem. But we would like to address also, let's say, challenges of fungi and study fungi. But right now we are concentrated on lichens. We studied diversity, the molecular phylogeny, taxonomy, lichen secondary metabolites, their antimicrobial and some other properties. But we are also interested in fungi. And hope soon we will have also the list on our website. Yep. Yep.
Arbe, do you have a question to ask before you take off?
Yes, I mean, I'm interested in knowing how safe are mushrooms that are being sold along the road or in small markets in Armenia, and if there is any way of telling if there is any danger in consuming any of those.
Good question. Thank you. They are not so safe because it's another fact which we can add to our presentation, that mushrooms consume a lot of heavy metals, pesticides, and some other deadly stuff for human beings. And we should think twice before buying mushrooms from these roadsides and so on. Because of course, some of the collectors, they know the species, but if, for instance, if they will collect at least one fruiting body of deadly Amanita muscaria or some other species, they can kill one family, for instance. Yeah, it's very easy. And we had such cases in Armenia when people died because of using even edible mushrooms, but contaminated with pesticides and heavy metals. So it's very, let's say, not so dangerous, but you should take care and think twice before buying mushroom from the roadside.
There's a big cultivation market, right, in Armenia?
Oh, yeah. But we don't have, let's say, traditions of cultivating mushrooms because we cultivate only Pleurotus ostreatus, so oyster mushroom, and Agaricus bisporus, so champignon, known in Armenia, and not so many other species. But you can buy some other species which are sold in our markets, which they import from Russia, from other countries.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I think, and
I just want to follow up. If the problem with mushrooms is chemicals from pesticides, most of those people who sell on the road are the ones who have gone to the Tasht up in the mountain and picked up those mushrooms. Are those also potentially contaminated by pesticides?
For example, we have different mining sites in the north of the country, which can be a source of contamination, or when they use pesticides for the forests to how to say it, pure, not bougel. I forgot the English word of it.
Protect it.
Protect for forest protection. Yeah. So it can happen.
Any other questions? Because Aravni, go ahead.
Yeah, I have a question about the changes in lichens in Armenia in terms of their geographic distribution or maybe species. And if there are changes, are there any connections or correlations between those changes and the global climate change? Have you noticed such a changes or not really?
Oh, good question. Because we had such an idea to study impact of climate change or some specific niche of lichens in Armenia. So we don't have such a data. As I said before, from 2011 to 2020, I was only lichenologist in the country. So it was really difficult for me to study everything. So I started with diversity, so basic needs, let's say, to know what do we have. And then now we have some ideas. And if you are interested in such a research, we are open and interested in collaboration on impact of climate change and on distribution of lichens.
Mm-hmm.
Have you done
I don't
distribution?
have a specific observation, I mean, but
Have
most probably it happens, yeah.
Have you done any, I'm assuming you geocoded all the samples that you collected.
Yeah.
And have you mapped those out at all, or?
No, we didn't map.
That could be something Aravni is with our GIS remote sensing lab. And so it could be interesting path of research about geocoding, and maybe, I don't know if there's even a remote sensing way of identifying lichen distribution. Areas to be explored, you know?
Yeah, it's interesting topic, this niche modeling and prediction, because I have some colleagues who worked on this topic of niche modeling of lichen habitats and impact of climate change, possible prediction of impact of climate change.
I was even thinking of something more basic, like distribution mapping.
About distribution mapping, yeah, it's actually, I did it only I have a publication which you can find on our website about 20 species we presented for a further inclusion in the Red Data Book of Armenia, and there we have, let's say, basic distribution maps for, but it's mostly threatened species and sensitive species which we know, but in general we didn't do that because we don't have enough human resources, and it's a big issue for us.
Right.
Yeah.
And Harut is suggesting crowdsourced mapping, but for that you need to know your species, right? Have you done genetic coding of these things?
You mean barcoding? We start with barcoding of lichens and fungi within this project, which is supported by Science Committee of Armenia, and we have already started.
I was driving by Aragats, and you can just see a universe of lichens there on the rocks. You see just massive amounts of lichens. Are there like a difference in the way it's distributed? Is it pretty uniformly distributed, or do you find concentrations of lichens?
You mean on Aragats?
Just generally in their population behavior, is it that they concentrate in places, or they're pretty much uniformly distributed?
No, they are concentrated mostly. If we are looking for epiphytic lichens which grow on trees, they prefer and they are concentrated in old growth forests. So because they need time for reproduction, and if you have a good old growth forest patch, you will have lichen diversity there. So that's why when we go for collection of the species, For some specific species, we are looking for good habitats with good trees, because they need also humidity, they need a good microclimate, and environment should be suitable for them. If you just cut one tree, then you will have within, I don't know, maybe 4 years, nothing there. I mean, if we change the microclimate, we threaten them. That's why, for example, within these forest management plans and such things, lichens are not considered, and lichens and fungi are not considered, and they just cut the old growth trees because they think it's unhealthy for the forests. It's a, let's say, a conflict between biodiversity researchers and experts and foresters, because the views are different.
So there's a
And
lot of
regarding, and it's important, the highest rate of diversity we observe in humid environments.
Yeah, well, Harut has a question, but before that, I mean, there seems to be some kind of paradox. I don't know if it's paradox, but it's hard to put it all together. I mean, they survive in space with very minimal oxygen, under very minimal oxygen humidity conditions. At the same time, some species seem to be very sensitive to change. So
Yeah.
they have a pretty wide range of
yeah, because some species you can find everywhere, and they can survive in any condition and grow on any surface, any substrate. But some of them are completely different and very sensitive. You just cut one tree and that's it, they disappear. That's why it's completely different species, different genera, and different situation with them.
Harut, yeah, you had a question?
Yeah, thanks, Arsen, for presentation. It's great. I was wondering how identifiable the lichens are. On image, I mean visually. So meaning I have in mind still the crowdsourcing and crowdsourced mapping. So would you be able to identify most of the species?
Some, let's say, common species, it's possible to identify. I don't like identification by image. A lot of friends sent me the images of fungi and lichens. Some of them, of course, it's possible identify by image, but there are a lot of species for which you need to check the spores, you need to check other vegetative structures, and so on, without checking, and also chemical reactions. There are some species you need to use these specific chemicals to check the chemical reaction, changing coloring reactions, and only then you can name the sample. Yeah, that's why I prefer identification in the lab under the microscope, and both for fungi and lichens, it's much better to do like this. And even for of course, for some common species, we can say by picture, but in general, it's not so good idea because we will have a lot of mistakes.
But can you at least identify that it's there? Can you crowdsource kind of prevalence, if you will, not of specific species, but lichens in general, or, you know, can you do some level of analysis with crowdsourcing, crowd mapping?
Maybe yes, but very basic, very basic.
Because a lot of, I can imagine a lot of tourists and hikers wandering around. They can just make photos, good quality photos, and upload with geocoding.
For instance, we add our data also. We started to add to iNaturalist, and of course there would be some photos maybe from tourists, from other experts who will add to iNaturalist. We can use this data also. But in general, on the small branch of you get a small branch, you can find, I don't know, 50, 20, 30 species of lichens. And I'm talking about micro lichens, not about macro species. Macro species, more or less, it's possible to deal with them. But if you go more deeply to micro level, then you will have a problem, because they will not see, and picture will not show necessary morphological features which are required for identification. But in general, as I said, for some basic things and some macro species, macro lichens, we will be able to identify by picture.
Do you find lichens in agricultural land?
On which type of substrate? On stones? Of course. Of course.
Yeah. I mean, what I'm getting at, okay, let me just ask the question. It's this practice of burning fields to get rid of residuals, you know, crop residues. Does that negatively impact fungi and lichens?
Yes, of course. If it's on the soil, so it will destroy and it will impact, of course. But if you mean in general agriculture, of course, it also impacts lichens, because they use these different pesticides and these chemicals. And in such a lands, the species which are very sensitive, they disappear very quickly, as I mentioned for other cases. So, but this burning practice is awful. It destroys all possible organisms, including lichens. But some species will grow again very quickly. But it will take, I don't know, maybe 3-4 years to recover and to cover the same habitat. But you will not have the same species. This is for sure.
Yeah, forever altering every time. Yeah, so you burn the field. Okay. Any other questions, anyone? It is 4 o'clock. Thank you very much, Arsen, for the great and engaging talk, and everyone for participating and the questions. And the video will be available on the Akopian Center's YouTube site. Please, let's all join in thanking Arsen and virtual.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thanks a lot. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.